Hi, all, and welcome to IoT and Beyond, the podcast. Today, we'll be visiting with a mover and a shaker here in North Texas and my good friend, Peter DeNagy. Hi, Pete. Glad you could join us today and be our guest on IoT and Beyond, the podcast.
It's always a pleasure to talk with you, my friend.
Oh, good. Glad to have you here. Pete is like the Energizer Bunny and a consummate entrepreneur. He's involved in so many projects and initiatives, it's hard to keep up with. Let me give you a little idea of the insight into all the things he's doing. Peter DeNagy is a pioneering force in the areas of mobile and Internet of Things technology, with a career dedicated to pushing the boundaries of digital innovation. As the president of Acomens Advisors and a co-founder of several tech companies, including Sakara, Climatech, and IoT America, which you'll get a chance to talk about some more in a little bit, just to name a few, Pete stands at the forefront of technological transformation. His expertise spans across strategic planning, product development, and cybersecurity, making him a globally recognized thought leader. With a passion for building high-performance teams and driving operational excellence, Pete has led initiatives that have left a significant imprint on the tech landscape. From developing smartphone environments, known as the Knox security platform that Samsung used to compete against BlackBerry, to the recent introduction of MLab's Secure Phone, as well as advancing security or sustainable technology solutions from Climatech and several other ventures that he's involved in. His work embodies a commitment to making technology accessible, secure, and environmentally conscious. As a sought-after speaker and advisor, Pete's insights inspire the innovation of action, making him a beacon for future tech entrepreneurs and enthusiasts alike. I've had the pleasure of knowing Pete for now over 10 years, and it's awesome. I'm excited to share his innovations with you, the audience. Welcome, Pete.
Well, thanks, Ed. And I gotta say, if I could live up to half of that intro, I consider myself a blessed man. I appreciate the kind words.
I'm glad to do it. Yeah, we've really enjoyed having you in our market in our community here, tech community in the North Texas area. Hey, could you share the journey that you've been on to become a globally recognized thought leader in the mobile and the IoT ecospace?
Yeah, it's been I will happy to do it. It's been a long trip. This is year 42 for me in mobile and IoT and communications. Started out an unlikely college degree from St. Joe's in Philadelphia, St. Joseph's University. I have a degree in politics with a minor in history, which is perfect for getting into IT. So I was actually pre-law. Senior year in college, I took a couple of law courses. I took con law and business law as electives, and I said to myself, "There's no chance I can do this for a living," and which really, of course, made my parents unhappy since I got into both Villanova and Dickinson Law School, and decided not to be a lawyer. So if you're not going to do that, you get into sales. So I ended up starting a sales career working in telecom. I worked for Harris, and I was selling, the Dracon equipment, the butt sets. I was selling modems. I was selling, key systems and PBXs, and then switches and routers and, hubs and whatnot. For Harris Corporation, funny story, one of my very first sales, and this dates us, Ed, I was selling modems to the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. And they printed a newspaper, and they would work with the other corresponding dioceses, and they had a bank of 25 acoustical couplers. So these were 300 baud modems, phones in the cradles themselves, a whole wall of them. And we had just come out with this blazing fast 9.6 modem, which cost $1,000 a piece. So the CIO of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia said, "Really? It goes 9.6?" I go, "Yes." I go, "It's 33 times faster than your acoustical coupler." Now, this was important to them because their archdiocese, had parts of Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania in different area codes in New Jersey. And that was back in the days where you had intra-ladder rates, and the rates got to be like 25 cents a minute. So when you're actually, sending the data, the news articles between the dioceses, it was very expensive. So he said, "Well, how do I know it works?" And I said, "Well, I'll drive to Allentown. I'll drop a modem off there. I'll have a modem here in Philadelphia, and you send the same page. And they did, and it worked. And he bought 50 modems at $1,000 a piece on the spot. And that was one of the greatest sales I ever made because it was an instant ROI. It was very cool. From Harris, I went over to work for GTE. So I worked for the phone company for 7 years. I started out again in sales, got promoted to be a sales manager, got promoted from there to be the market director. Ended up running out of franchise sales for GTE for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and the great state of West Virginia. And GTE was a great, great company. Really happy to do, work there, had a lot of great experiences. I was going to retire from GTE in my mind's eye until we decided to do that merger of equals. And GTE decided to merge with a company called Bell Atlantic. And being the highest ranked person in Philadelphia working for GTE and having Bell Atlantic headquartered in Philadelphia, I knew that politically it would be problematic. So I decided to wait till the merger was approved by both boards, which accelerated all my options to 100% vesting, did my buy sell, and sold my stock, which then became a company called Verizon at the all-time high, and went to work for Sprint. From Sprint, I was regional director of strategy, did very well. One of the things that we did at Sprint, which I was most proud of, is I led the team that sold the largest commercial ATM network in Sprint history to Adelphia Cable. That's ATM being a synchronous transfer mode, not automatic teller machine, and it ended up being a $250 million sale. So it was pretty sizable. I leveraged that to become vice president at Global Crossing, which was the best of times and the worst of times. I was there when we were growing rapidly. I was there when we went bankrupt. I have to tell you, it is not my favorite thing to testify to Congress, but that was interesting in and of itself. From there, I went to work for EDS, and that was really a seminal moment because while I moved from sales into more of a consultative type of role, and I was doing strategy as well before. At EDS, I actually, led go-to-market in the communication sector and Verizon account, as well as I also worked on several of the projects. And one of the projects I worked on was my intro to IoT. I worked on the OnStar project because EDS actually built OnStar for General Motors. So after my 4 years at EDS, I went to work into consulting. I ended up at Accenture. At Accenture, I ran go-to-market for the Americas for the mobile and the IoT practice, doing a lot of great, mobile development work. From Accenture, it was very interesting. One of our clients who was looking to do some work asked us to bid on the work, strategy work, because they wanted to get into enterprise mobility, and we were bidding against McKinsey. We lost the work, but then 3 weeks later, the client decided to hire me, and that was a seminal moment in my career because that is when I moved from Philadelphia to Dallas, because the client was a company called Samsung. And at Samsung, that's where I ended up being the U.S. General Manager of Enterprise. I actually wrote Samsung's enterprise strategy, ideated a lot of products and go-to-market capabilities. I was the one that actually got Exchange ActiveSync on the phones, as well as put together the M2M capabilities in the device and putting it into ROM and the instantiation of the ideas for Knox, which is a security platform that's been deployed literally on billions of devices over its 10-year lifespan. From Samsung, after 4 years at Samsung, I went to Capgemini. At Capgemini, I ran the mobile application solutions practice for the United States and Canada. Mobile apps are important, of course. Funny story, love to admit this. I did the mobile app work for Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes. So we did get paid, by the way, but though, it was as close to working for a criminal, I guess, as I knew that I ever did. So, and then after that, in 2013, I decided to start A Commence Advisors, my own consulting practice. A couple of things happened. One was, I had angel invested in a company called Lucid Security. And Lucid Security was an intrusion protection platform. Well, they got bought by Ambron, who got bought by Trustwave, who got bought by Singtel. So my 1.536 million founder shares diluted to 102,000 shares of Singtel. So that was my first exit. And once you get a taste of an exit, you're like, oh, this is way cool. I should do this for the rest of my life. Thank you. So I
Aha.
decided to leave Capgemini. And then, but while I did that, I was also on the board of advisors of Bitzer Mobile, which was a mobile container company. So after our Series A, and this happened like within, you know, you know, 3 months of each other. After we did our Series A, Bitzer Mobile was purchased by Oracle. So my 24,000 shares of Bitzer Mobile became 6,000 shares of Bitzer Mobile became 6,000 shares of Oracle. So I had two hits in 3 months. And I'm like, said to myself, yeah, I can consult myself. I can do this, easily. I can help companies and I like startups. So I was hooked. And, since then I've been engaged in two other startups that have exited. One was Cloud Masons and one was IoT America. So if you wonder why I work on so many startups at the same time, it's because, I have a passion for innovative ideas, and B, I kind of have, I'm hooked on the entire startup methodology, right? Start them up, get them out. So, and I have a bunch of new journeys now, and we're going to talk about that soon.
Oh,
How's
good.
that, Ed?
Well, that's a great review of all that you've done in the past and the things that inspired you. Now I understand what drives you because it gets habit forming, it sounds like, to be
Oh, it's an
an
opioid.
entrepreneur like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I don't drink, I don't take drugs. I maybe I eat too much, but other than that, and I do startups.
It's nice to have that kind of addiction. So, of all the companies that you've got there, which are the ones that are top of mind that you are want to talk about right now about what you're doing with those companies?
Well, it's really funny, right? I try to keep in the same lanes, right? So, my steps in the past have been modems and PBXs and switches and routers and IXC and OSS and M2M and, software development, strategy, security, 5G. But this is the lane that I'm in, right? So if it touches this, that's where I go, right? You're not going to see me doing a restaurant. You're not going to see me doing a retail store. It's really not my go-to-market. You have to touch that, right? So if I look at this, right, what if I look at the companies that I'm working on, or what I've done, right? I would say that there's some steadfast, right? Acomens Advisors, I still do that work. It's my generic basic consulting arm, right? I've done some consulting projects for Comcast and LG and Kyocera and HTC and Google have been my clients in the past. I have some other clients as well. I am working for another consultancy, Imagine Wireless. The Imagine Wireless folks, I'm doing that's where I'm doing actually a lot of the 5G and the LP WAN consulting. During the pandemic, because things were different and interesting there, I actually did a lot of consulting work for DFW International Airport. I helped them put together their private wireless strategy, and we actually ran three CBRS POCs, which were very successful. As a matter of fact, one of them won use case of the year by the OnGo Alliance,
Oh, really?
which of
Okay.
yeah, which is actually the CBRS user alliance.
Right.
So that was very good, right? So, and then, from a startup perspective, and I'll, like I said, I'll say that the things that I'm really interested in, a lot of passion for security, right? So I'm on the board of directors of several companies. One of the companies I'm on the board of directors is a company called Maxsure, Maxxsure. So Maxsure does cyber risk assessment. So we actually leverage the toolkits of a lot of the different standards and frameworks like NIST and HIPAA and PCI and whatnot. And we cross-reference it with the workflows of companies to measure their cyber resilience. We give them a score of 1 to 1,000 based on 9 different pillars. And we actually put together a visualization that the senior executives of a company can look at and quickly to say, yeah, I'm strong here, I'm not strong here. Because at the end of the day, it's really hard to tangibly measure how cybersecure you really are, right? It also will let you know, candidly, where you're short, where you're tall, and what you can fix and what you should ensure. So, but leveraging that from a security perspective, the startups that I'm deeply engaged with leverage on security. One of them, of course, which we're really excited about, is Sakara.
Yeah, I've
So,
been hearing about this.
yeah, so Sakara is a startup, and I'm the president of Sakara, so I'm deeply engaged in Sakara. So we've actually put together a company that manages cyber resiliency for autonomous and electric vehicles,
Hmm.
as well as puts together, a cyber insurance platform. So one of the issues at hand, of course, for cybersecurity is if you have an accident and the car is self-driving, who's at fault,
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
right? And is it the driver? Well, not necessarily, because it's autonomous that the car should be driving. Is it the automotive manufacturer? Well, not necessarily, because it has to do with a lot of components. Well, is it the component manufacturer? There are, but there are a lot of components in a car. Like take a Tesla. There are 65, core processors in a Tesla with hundreds of sensors. Well, which one failed? Is it the street signs? Is it the other cars? Is it the road systems? Was it the communication module? Is it the carrier that's at fault? Did they not send it off to the data center in time? Right? These are problems with autonomous vehicles, right? All we know is there's still going to be accidents. So we've actually gone forward and put together the ability to monitor a car, to actually look at the firmware of the car and remediate the issues. Because candidly speaking, many of the cybersecurity issues in not only cars, but in all other compute stacks, is that the firmware is old, has a lot of holes, has a lot of interesting iterations, and has never been revisited. When you come up with a product and you make something, you typically take it from generation to generation. Well, generationally, no one ever rewrites the firmware. So basically, you're cutting and pasting the old firmware and you're putting it into the new firmware. Well, that's really poor practice. Case in point, the partner we use to do this is a company called Delpher. Delpher recently did this for a computer company. They looked at one of their products. It was a Wi-Fi AP, and in the Wi-Fi AP, and I won't tell you who it is because it's really embarrassing, they found 1,008 bugs in the firmware.
Over 1,000?
1,008
Wow.
bugs. 3 backdoors, and one of them was a Chinese nation state backdoor. Because in 2016, the company might have hired some Chinese developers to do firmware work. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scary.
So you can have all the tools and toys you want to go and manage the cyber risk, but if you get a backdoor in your firmware, how do you do that? We manage that. We manage that. We mitigate it. We have agents we can put in firmware to manage that. So once we clean it up, we can monitor to see if it's been compromised.
Wow.
We use
Very
MaxSure as
powerful.
well to do that, as well as other tools and whatnot. On top of that, what we have done is we have built an AI monitoring engine to go and monitor the sensors. Because if you're talking about cars and monitoring them for cyber risk, you're talking about cars have hundreds of sensors, and there are millions of cars, and they're all producing data every 15 seconds, depending on how often you poll it. Okay, so you're talking about tens of billions of events and petabits of data. Humanly, you can't monitor that.
Yeah.
You need an AI engine to go forward and do that. And we've actually fronted our entire system with that. So it's very powerful. We're talking to several of the automotive manufacturers. We're getting great traction. The MLabs device, which is another company I'm working on, we've actually utilized an open source OS called
Like a
Graphene.
smartphone, right?
It's a smartphone OS. But what it does, it actually encrypts the data, strips the metadata off the data artifacts. It go forwards and provides secure messaging, hardened browser, Tor VPN, and has multiple profile capabilities. So if I do this, I can actually open multiple profiles on the device.
Oh, okay.
And I can change the profile. Hit my camera, hit my password because I use Good Hygiene, and I'm now a different phone.
Wow, nice.
with a different phone number and a different profile and a different security clearance.
So is that
That's
available
very
now
cool.
or coming out in the near future?
You can get it now.
Okay.
So, it's very cool. And then let's see. So,
Voxel earlier, something about that. I have not heard of
yeah,
Voxel before. What's that?
voxel is very cool. So what we have done, okay, which is great, we have gone and created a new social conversation messaging and e-commerce platform.
Okay.
So what you can do, so the problem in social media today, right, is that all the conversations on social media platforms are predominantly one directional. Okay. So in a video collaboration, we can do a one-on-one conversation. But if you're using Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or I should say X or Truth or whatever platform you so choose to use, right? Okay. You have a moderator and a content provider issuing content, but there are no ways for the audience to interact. Well, what we've done is we've actually created a social media platform where you can actually have bi-directional conversations, either, in video, in audio, or in chat with the moderator. And the moderator can go and allow, people to go forward and enter at any time. You can actually sell the time. You can actually pre-schedule it. You can actually do all sorts of things, and it's based on categories of interest. Okay. On top of that, and this is really very important because we've done something that never's been done before, we've also integrated e-commerce directly into the conversation. What this means is while we're having the session, okay, whether it be live or whether it be archived, okay, I don't have to leave the session and I can make an e-commerce decision on the spot, which means I can buy the materials while I'm still listening to the messaging. Like so on Instagram or Facebook or whatnot, there's a call to action to say, buy this product. Okay, that's great. And then you have to leave Facebook, and then you have to leave Instagram, and then you have to leave X to go to the site to make the purchase. The conversion rate drops.
Yep.
So we take care of that.
Wow.
So there's a lot more, but we're short on time.
Yep.
Smart tech, I'm going to skip, but that's really our IoT smart building company. Climate Tech is a very interesting company. So it's actually climate resilience, based on standards for companies, right, and organizations to see how climate resilient they are, especially with new SEC laws coming up for reporting. So that's really what we're doing there. From a healthcare perspective, working on a company called Cerevis Health, where we've actually put together an engagement platform for seniors so that we can actually aggregate everybody's health records and make it family basis. So all the providers can actually enter their records into a patient dominated archival retrieving system. And we have the ability to go interleave into each patient instance the IoT sensors for monitoring. So we can actually, so we can actually do home care monitoring through the platform without sending people out to the nursing home. So we
all
can
this is
do
HIPAA compliant.
heart rate monitoring, blood pressure, pulse ox, proximity. We can actually tell if they're standing or sitting or in a room or lying in bed. We can do it with audio. We can do it with cameras. There are a lot of people that don't want cameras. It's not a problem because we use the new HIPAA compliant radar technologies. So we can actually put radar sensors into their rooms and actually tell if they're standing or sitting or walking or whatnot. And we don't actually see them, right? Which people are concerned about. Working with a company called Neighbors. So Neighbors, we're actually putting together a new insurance platform for devices so that you can actually, if you break your PC or whatnot, you get that fixed. one of the things
One
I'm
more, and what we're going to do, I think we'll have you back if it's okay with you, because there are so many things you're involved in. I'd like to learn more about some of these.
well, I'd like to actually talk about each one of them in depth, right? Because
Yeah,
this is the shotgun because
yeah,
we haven't gotten to Mind VR, we haven't gotten to Ceres Technologies, which is our supply chain AI platform,
right,
which we're
okay.
having great success with. We haven't talked about Wi-Fi, which is the new home internet service, which is at a reduced rate for seniors. We haven't talked about Bruva, which is the new platform for people buying cars on the buy here, pay here market, and the Imagine Wireless consulting for the airports that we're doing across the
Wow.
United States.
I see us doing this several more times. So
So
this is fun. This is
that
really
is
good.
in a nutshell what I'm doing. So it's but we're doing some really cool stuff.
Awesome. Well, it shows you got involved and became a entrepreneur, and it's infectious. You've just continued on. How can other people get started with that? Where should they go? What do you recommend for people to go up, platforms to go to, or sites to go visit to start into that process?
Well, that's a great question. One of the really good sites is Y Combinator.
Y Combinator?
Yeah,
What
Y
letter Y?
Combinator. Yeah, well, the Y Combinator actually has a great platform, in a lot of utility for entrepreneurs, right? So if you're not familiar with Y Combinator, they're an organization out of California that actually worked on a lot of the original big startups, right? Like, so they worked on like Google and Facebook and so on, so on,
Oh,
so on,
really?
right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, and the website is, and I'll put it in the chat for you, Ed, because so you could actually post this, but this is really good. They've done about $600 billion in
100
startups.
billion with a B?
Yeah.
Wow.
They funded about 5,000 startups. Okay. So they're based out of California. They're very good, as you might well imagine. But on top of that, if you go to their website, right, they actually have tools on like pitch decks and thoughts like that. So you can actually go look at their library, right? So and it's a great resource. They have YouTube videos, they have a startup school. They've done a lot of good things, right?
That is
So another one is Plug and Play.
plug and play.
hmm So Plug and Play just opened up an office in Frisco. So they're also
Oh, okay.
a national
Down the street from
organization.
you. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Awesome.
So you can,
Well,
I mean, those are places to go if you want to think or look. And of course, there are accelerators, right? There are good accelerators in the Metroplex. There's the deck, right?
yep.
There's RevTech. UTD has a nice acceleration program. SMU, has a good acceleration program. So there's clearly some things going on. It's really funny. We always talk about Dallas and Austin. What's the better, or Houston, which are the better places to start? And it always depends, right? But Austin gets a lot of the hype, but from a reality perspective, there's so many more engineers here in Dallas than there are in Austin. Austin's good at software, no doubt. But if you're doing anything beyond software, then Dallas is a great place to go. Houston certainly has it all over everybody on oil and gas.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
right. Well, let's call it come to a close now, and we're going to have you back because this is really interesting to find out more about all the different projects and companies and things that you're involved in. It's just so fun to every time I see you over these last 10 years, you're involved in something new. And so it's inspiring and exciting, and it's amazing to me that you're able to help so many people to move forward with this.
yeah, and I'm happy to go through like each one of them in a much more detailed pace, right?
Okay.
Because each one of them, are candidly interesting in their own right, which is of course why I do them.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let me close up here then. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us today. Your insights and stories are a beacon for all of us in the tech world, and I really appreciate. We're all better for getting a chance to understand what you do. Thanks for taking the time to share your journey and your wisdom with us. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Remember, if you go to iotandbeyond.com, iotandbeyond.com, you'll find the link to our YouTube channel where you can watch this replay and catch up on other previous interviews that we've done. You can also, on that site, find the link to IoT Texas Meetup site. Peter comes and presents to us periodically at that as well. It's a hybrid event where we come together and network and meet, but we also have people join us online to see what's going on. So remember, IoT and Beyond is a very great place to come to learn more about IoT and to see all the technologies that support it and enable it. So don't forget that on the YouTube channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you'll get a notice about every new episode that comes out. So until next time, keep pushing the boundaries and exploring beyond. Thanks, Pete, and hopefully we'll do this again here soon.
All right, sounds great.